morning, viewers. The Colonel speaking to you live from the Lay Rectory for British Imperial YouTube Broadcasting, and here we go again with another Squire Rambles on. It's 5 days since the referendum, where people voted the right way, and the Squire. What do you think of it all, then?
I think I'm very pleased. I'm very pleased with the result.
Yes.
I'd wished for a higher majority, perhaps, but
yes.
On the other hand, I think realistically, I didn't think there would be much more than. I thought it could be 5% either way. To be quite truthful, I think it would be that close. I didn't think it would be a big. I didn't think it would be a big majority because the country has been more or less split 50-50 over Europe ever since the Union was brought in.
Yes, but of course it changed. That was the thing. It was the common market, or EEC. Well, that's what we were told. But years ago I watched a Question Time with Sir Edward Heath and Tony Benn, where he said, oh, everybody was told from the outset it was going to be political union. Well, that wasn't true.
Not to my knowledge. As far as I was concerned, back in 1975, the vote was to join the common market.
Yes.
Now, as I said before, the common market wasn't a bad idea. It was for trading and cultural links. Well, that's not a problem. But when it becomes to a total union, when you've got countries of different cultures, different religions, different politics, all being piled in together, it will never work.
In a one-size-fits-all system.
It doesn't work. It didn't work under communism, and it won't work. It won't work in Europe.
No, and it didn't. It hasn't.
No, it hasn't. No, it's been quite interesting, really. Of course, there's a lot of ramifications, a lot of yelling, shouting and gnashing of teeth, but the truth of the matter is a majority of people, well, of those that voted, a majority of people voted to stay, come out of Europe, by, 1,700,000?
It was about 2.5%, I suppose.
Yeah, 2.5–3%, yes, that's right. Which I think is probably as good as one could expect. Mind you, they reckon there were 27% of the people didn't vote. Well, they're out of the equation, I'm afraid.
Yes.
A lot of them had their chances and didn't take them, and that's it really. It's no good. It could have made a lot of difference. But I think, to be honest, I think that the right decision has been taken. It may not be obvious now, but I think, to be honest, as weeks go past, people realise that we've only just got out of a major problem by the skin of our teeth, because even in the last couple of days there has been news coming out of Europe that Germany and France have got the idea of turning Europe into a United States of Europe, and the member countries will lose control of their army or their armed forces. They'll lose control of their common law, their taxation system, and they'll be talking about a central bank. Well, that is a complete mess up, because that will never work.
No.
I mean, I'm just so pleased we got out of that, because just imagine. I know it's the past is the past, and one can't keep on with it. But you imagine what would have happened in the 1930s when Hitler was rising in Germany, if the armed forces of the whole of Europe had been centrally controlled in Brussels. Can you imagine what it would have happened if he'd have just walked into Brussels and taken control of the whole blessed lot?
I think, in all honesty, we saved Europe in 2 world wars, and we've saved Europe now.
Well, the point is, I've heard a lot. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation about it, but I have heard that particularly Holland, France, and some of the East European countries are thinking about breaking free of the Union, and I think they should.
Yes.
I think if there is anybody from Holland or France watching this or listening to it, they should rally to get out of the Union, because their countries will run into problems as well. It's not just this one. By the same token that it doesn't suit our country, it won't suit theirs. Because what suits Germany won't suit Greece or won't suit Spain. You just can't do that. It just won't work.
No, it won't. You've got economies running at different speeds.
Exactly.
It's like a huge mechanism where some cogs go at some speeds and some go at others.
Well, absolutely.
And it just will not integrate. It just won't work.
No,
it's just
it won't
not
happen.
economically possible.
No. And I don't see any legitimate reason why this country should be told what to do by countries overseas.
Especially America, where, well, it's all down to the political elite again. Obama and his chums, well, they may not be there in a few months' time. We could find Trump. Now, goodness knows what will happen then, but, he's not a stupid man either. And people say Boris Johnson, oh, he's nuts. I say to them, it's an act. He's not stupid. These people aren't stupid, and the political elite we've been stuck with for 50 years seems to have got one hell of a kick up the backside.
I think, to be honest, if Trump took over in America and Boris Johnson became Prime Minister in this country, I think we'd see some big improvements. Because, let's be realistic about this. What we've done, the decision we've taken, is to leave the European Union.
Yes.
Now, we haven't said anything about Europe, we haven't said anything about the continent of Europe, the people of Europe, or the countries.
No.
It is the European Union. And there's all these horror stories as to what's going to happen. I would say don't believe half of them, or at least don't panic about it, wait till something happens. It says on this mug, keep calm and carry on.
Yes, and where does that come from, Nigel? Do you know where that poster was first used? When I was a civil servant, we found some of those, and they were for putting up in the Channel Islands when the Germans invaded.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep calm and carry on. That's the best advice.
Well, exactly, and that's just what people need to do now. And I think the thing is, all the yelling and shouting has now got to stop. The result has come, the decision has been taken, and now it's all next fully into the collar pulling the plan now. They can't have this arguing, or can't all this bickering going on. It's got to be settled down now. People
have got to accept the decision. The ordinary people of this country have not been consulted since the early 1970s. I certainly didn't have anything to do with it in those days.
No.
And, politicians have gone ahead with all sorts of mad schemes, very few of which affected their way of life, but for ordinary people it's been very, very bad in many, many ways. And it's got to stop. Politicians have got to listen to ordinary people.
Well, I think another thing, a lot of the row that's going on over this Europe is politicians and what I would loosely call European fat cats, that are making a fortune out of money that we pay into Europe and it's paid out to them. I mean, they're squawking and screaming because they can see their lovely little gravy train coming to an end. Well, I'm not on a gravy train, nor are you, and nor are the majority of the people watching this programme. They won't. It doesn't affect them. All they have to do is to fund the people that are, and I think it's totally wrong.
I listened to Radio 4 the other day, and there was Margaret Mountford saying, oh, it's disgraceful, it's a tragedy, we've stolen the future of young people. What a lot of nonsense. That's typical middle-class, chattering-class nonsense. All they're worried about is their agreeable little trips to Italy to sample all the local wine. Oh, it's so delightful. Well, if you've got to pay more for that, tough. You should have been paying more in the first place. And then Woman's Hour this morning, they were dreadful nonsense they were spouting. Woman's Hour has become disgraceful anyway. It should be run by decent women, not these graduate types with their loony lefty attitudes. I switch that rubbish off usually, especially if I'm driving. But no, things will get, better. It's a lot of nonsense, a lot of hot air, a lot of frightening nonsense from these loony lefties. We should have a second referendum. What? Should we have best of three? Is that how it works?
You can't do that. The decision has been taken.
Yes.
People have had their chance. Now, I've been hearing reports that people have voted to come out of Europe and now are regretting their vote. Well, that's their stupid fault. They should know what they're voting for.
Oh, I didn't realise it might happen.
Exactly. Can you believe it? I mean, people surely know what they're going to vote for. I mean, they've had months to find out the possible ramifications of it. No, I think, to be honest, quite apart from the fact about people worrying about their futures, I think they've now probably got a future they didn't have before.
They most certainly have. An international future.
Exactly, yes. I think, to be honest, Europe has been like the proverbial house of cards.
It has.
And we've pulled one of the bottom cards
Well,
out.
I think it started when the fences started going up in
Exactly.
Austria
Exactly.
and Hungary
Exactly.
and places like that. And
Yeah.
when, all these illegal migrants coming to Greece,
Mm.
I feel terribly sorry for them.
Mm.
But I don't, and the Greeks particularly, because they can't afford to keep them.
No, indeed.
And now the fences have gone up. This is where it started. Not with us, with the countries in between, the Eastern European countries and things like that.
I think there's another thing to be remembered as well, and that is that a lot of those countries were invaded during the war.
And more recently, think of the
Exactly.
nonsense in wherever it was, not the Crimea,
Ukraine.
Ukraine, that's
Yeah.
it. And the European Union stuck their oar in, so Russia felt their interests were threatened. It's all ended badly because of the naivety and incompetence of the European leaders. Upsetting Russia is no joke. It's all been done before. Think about the Crimea. That's what I was thinking of. You can't go upsetting. It's got to be international things. You can't have the Europeans saying everyone can join us, because they can't.
No, well, this is the point, and they caused a lot of problems with that. But no, I think the point is there are plenty of countries around the world, as we've
Yes.
said before. They're the old Commonwealth countries. We can open more links with them.
Absolutely.
We've got countries like Canada, America. I heard I think it was only yesterday or the day before, that Iceland had offered us trade.
Yes,
I
it's
don't
a
know,
start.
that doesn't sound a lot, but it's a good start. At least it's something.
Yeah.
And I say, instead of being tied into virtually a state dictatorship, we'll be able to make our own decisions.
Our own
and
decisions?
that's the important thing, is making our decisions.
Yes.
We do not want we don't want foreign powers telling us what to do. We never have done, and we shouldn't start doing it now.
No, we don't need them. We don't need this nonsense. It should
No.
be about trade and friendliness, making the decisions here. The
Exactly.
decisions that affect us should be made by us.
Absolutely.
And not by incompetent politicians.
No.
Blair was the one who was absolutely useless. Mind you, Chilcot report out soon. That'll make interesting reading. But there we are. And all sorts of other changes have happened in our country. My preceptory is a typical British house. It has Anglo-Saxon origins, Norman foundations, and sort of George the First, Second and Third. It was built during the reigns of George II and III for the rest of it. And we have these giant Euro lorries going past Squire, and it's shaking my old English house to its very foundations. And if that wasn't bad enough, you've been in the gardens with me when we've had planes going over all the time. And I think the Germans, they haven't got swastikas on, but, and I say, we've got the chance now to send the truckers back and send the Fokkers back as well, and it can't be a bad thing, really, can it?
I think the point is, you see, when you think about it, when the European Union started, there was
Yes.
all this big fuss of trying to upgrade all the roads in this country.
Yes,
to
yes.
take these bigger lorries, and you've got quite unsuitable.
Gigantic vehicles.
And you've got villages split in half, with what used to be more or less a country road going through the middle of them.
Yes.
They're two within a stone's throw of here. One is Longhambra.
Oh yes, that's an A road,
which is
unbelievably.
split right down the middle, and the other one is Kennington near Oxford, where you've virtually got a main road going down the middle of it.
It's an absolute nightmare.
And they're just doing it to get the bigger and bigger lorries in.
And roads like the A34, it goes through not Cowley, isn't it? No, not Cowley.
No.
It goes
oh,
through
that's Botley.
Botley.
Hinksey, Botley, isn't it? Round?
Yeah, and it's a huge bottleneck where you've got to
Yeah,
drive
yes.
at 30 on a
right.
main road.
That's right. Well,
Absolute nightmare.
see, that's the problem. That road is that A34 is a terrible problem around Oxford.
But it's not all foreign lorries, we're not
No,
saying
oh,
that.
no,
It's
no,
just
no.
that all these sort of strange things and all these directives that came out of Europe,
Oh, it's just
the
rubbish.
Germans would look at them and study them in detail, the Italians and French would laugh at them, and we have the sort of loony lefties in the town halls who implement them, all these metric martyrs whose businesses were destroyed and their lives wrecked because they were using proper imperial measurements that people wanted to buy in. But because of the diktats
Oh, absolutely,
from
yes.
Brussels. They
Absolutely.
weren't allowed to.
No, I
Why
agree
can't
with you.
I go and buy a half-pound of gobstoppers? I'm sure most viewers would like me to have some gobstoppers thinking about it, but you know, why can't I go down the shop and buy some of those if I could find a Swedish shop that sold them in half-pounds?
I think, to be honest, I think if it brings back things like that, if it brings back selling fuel in gallons and go back to imperial
people will know what it costs.
Of course it does. It doesn't. Metric measure has never meant anything to people in this country.
It means nothing to me. We still use miles and all this kilometre rubbish.
Well,
I don't know what
right.
that is.
It never has done.
It's Napoleonic measurements. People forget that the imperial measurements are not based on Roman imperial measurements. They're based on sort of human dimensions. Created by God, of course, viewers. We better not get him into it, but but that's what they are, and that's what we understand here in England and Great Britain.
Absolutely, yes.
Because let's not forget the Welsh voted with us, the Northern Irish didn't, and the Scotch didn't. But there we are. That's up to them.
Well, the point is that there's obviously a lot of negotiation.
Absolutely.
To go, a lot of things have got to be sorted. But I think basically, people had their chance. It was high time a plebiscite was held on the membership of the union, and now the result has come forward. And I think, to be honest, I think as time goes on, you see, we've just been talking about this diktat about forming this Central European control thing. Well, I think as time goes on, more things are going to be released because I'm sure the European politicians have been holding back on what's actually going to happen until after the referendum.
Yes.
Now, if we'd have signed up to stay, they'd have turned around and say, right, that's it. Well, you've got to put up with it. That's it.
This is it.
Your armed forces are going to be controlled by us. We are going to control your banking system, taxation, criminal law. I mean, that is terrible.
It is.
I mean, that cannot happen.
Well, we've got the European Court of Human Rights telling us what to do. Well, we saved Europe in 2 world wars to preserve proper human rights because we had them here. It wasn't perfect, but it was a damn sight better than on the continent. Certainly during the period between 1933 and 45.
Well, exactly.
When there was no such thing as human rights for most people.
No, indeed not.
We saved these people, and we've saved them again. There will be a bright future.
I believe so, yes, I do. I honestly do. And I think, as I say, I think as time goes on, people will begin to realise what they've got, how lucky they are to have got out of it.
Yes.
Because if people had voted to stay in it, then all this raft of legislation would have come in. We wouldn't be able to control our borders, we wouldn't be able to regulate how many people come into the country. And the situation is that we just haven't got the infrastructure.
And I think the situation would have got to such a stage where, not being alarmist, we could have ended up in some sort of civil war.
Well, I think we've had in a way a verbal civil war for 3 months over this European.
And that was too long anyway.
I think what Cameron should have done, I think he should have given the whole thing a month. I would have thought he should have announced the referendum on the 23rd of May for the 23rd of June, because all that's happened is the arguments have not just been put forward, they've been turned and twisted around in all directions. People have got thoroughly fed up with it and don't know which way they're facing. And to be honest, once a thing is said, you can't say it umpteen times.
No, but the thing is, the one lot said one thing, the other lot said, yeah, boo, it wasn't the case. One lot came out with some figures, the other lot said they were rubbish and brought out some other figures. And I think voters thought, well, these people are not helping. They're not helping me make a sensible decision, so I'll go with what I feel on the day. And look what happened. And now we've got the Labour Party absolutely in chaos.
Well, the point is.
Well, both parties really.
Well, I was going to say, but then there again, they've got to go back to. These parties have got to go back to their grassroots.
Yes.
It's all got silly.
Well, the thing is, the people in charge do not represent ordinary people.
No, indeed not.
They don't represent them. They don't listen to them. They call them racist at the drop of a hat because they're concerned about immigration. But they're not. They're just concerned about immigration. It does not make you a racist.
No,
racist is doing something unpleasant.
No, but the point is, it would be the same. It would be the same situation if we had, let's say, we had 200,000 people from any country
anywhere.
coming. doesn't matter what colour or sex or politics they are.
No.
It's numbers that's the problem. We just haven't got it to cut.
And Tony Blair and the usual New Labour cretins just left an open door without making any provision at all for what was going to happen. Their numbers were fictional, a few 100,000. Again, it is numbers. We can't cope. The schools can't cope. Whole areas of London are becoming ghettoised. They should be integrated if they want to come.
Exactly. No, it's got to be much more strictly controlled.
It has.
There's no doubt about that.
Because it's deterring and making genuine asylum seekers feel very unwelcome, and that's wrong. They're the sort of people we should be letting in, compassionately letting in, because they are genuine asylum seekers.
Well, this is the point.
And not just looking for work.
And the other thing is, so if you look at the pictures of all these migrants from Syria, one of the things that has struck me is you don't see many women and children in those pictures.
Not at the moment, no.
No, you don't. It's mostly the young men. Well, why aren't they back in Syria with rifles fighting for their country?
Exactly.
What are they doing coming over here? They should be. Or what can we do?
We can train them up and send them back to fight. We don't mind doing that.
We've got nothing to do. We can't cope with it.
No. And of course we are an island. There are lots of big countries in between. Most of the reason they're coming here is that the Germans are saying we'll let you all in, which is not a help at all to anybody.
That's going to cause major problems, and it is causing major problems.
That's why the Hungarians and the Austrians and people like that have put up the fences.
Well, very much so, yes, indeed.
And there should be a lot more of them, really.
Exactly.
But then it's deterring, as I say, the genuine asylum seekers. We've always been very happy to help them in this country, in their hour of need. All the people that came here before the war and after the war, but they came in smallish numbers.
This is the problem. You see, you can handle small numbers, but the whole problem with this is it doesn't matter who they are. It's too many, and we can't. That's the problem. It's coping with the numbers.
Absolutely. It's a shame, but there we are. Well, there we are. We voted to get out. It's a new dawn for us.
A new dawn of a new age, yes, exactly.
Of a new age, the age of Aquarius, possibly. I'm keeping my clothes on, viewers, luckily. But I think, sensible people are ignoring the panic, they're ignoring the fear and nonsense from the politicians who don't represent ordinary people, as we've seen. They didn't think they'd vote to get out. They wouldn't have held the referendum if they had, would they?
Well, there again, I mean, that just shows the stupidity of it. I mean, you don't start off something like that unless you expect either result or possibility. I mean, it was fairly close, so I've got to admit, and as I said before, I never thought it would be any wider.
But it was surprising as well when I listened to the radio on the results. And I was quite surprised. London, that's not a surprise because that's very multi-ethnic. I won't call it multicultural, but it's multi-ethnic, certainly. But some of the northern cities, Manchester, well, you can sort of understand it. But Sheffield voted out. And almost all the country areas in this country voted out. So what happens? And Wales voted out. And places that aren't affected by immigration wanted out. So that can't be the issue.
No.
What is the issue is people are fed up with not being listened to. They've had the opportunity. They're not represented at general elections because most people vote along party lines.
Exactly, that's right.
And so you don't get an accurate picture. And unfortunately, the politicians didn't realise that.
No.
And thought, And as for people, as we say, people saying, well, I regret the way I voted. Well, what do you think happens when you vote? It wasn't a question of voting for an MP or a party and you get stuck with it.
No.
Every vote counted in this one. I don't think people thought about that.
No, indeed, that's right. There could be no such thing as a protest vote in this one because you voted either one way or the other.
Yeah.
You voted either it was very simply worded. Do you think we should remain in the European Union or do you think we should leave the European Union? It can't be simpler than that.
Yes.
People have just got to should have just made their minds up and voted the way they felt was right. I certainly did, and I would never change my mind on that one. I've been against the European Union ever since it was founded.
Mm.
I wasn't so much against the common market, that was a different ballgame, but the European Union, yes.
Mm. And that's the point, isn't it?
Exactly.
Well, there we are, viewers. That's the Squire's opinion. It's a personal opinion. It's our personal opinions. You no doubt have a view. Thank you for listening to us. And let's all hope for the very best. And, you know, agree to disagree, but basically agree to have a better future.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Thank you, viewers.
Take care.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.